In terms of people, and particularly men, finding it difficult to open up, it's something I've thought quite a lot about, and I've read a bunch about, and obviously I've had my own experiences. But I think it sort of starts with the fact that genuine human connection is everything. It's really, really important. It's wholesome, it's warming, it's good for your health. Genuine human connection, however, requires vulnerability, and vulnerability can be really scary when you've got nothing to hide behind and you're allowing yourself to be truly seen in your fears. Us being vulnerable is a fear of shame. The fear that if people truly see us, they wouldn't consider us worthy of love or connection. There's a really, really great talk about shame and vulnerability, and how they sort of interplay by a woman called Brene Brown. I think she's a social work professor. It's definitely worth checking out. In fact, just if you just look for Brene Brown on Google, everything that she talks about is worth checking out. But I think what keeps us from making these deep, laid bare connections, which I'd really truly argue is what makes human existence worthwhile, is the fear that we're not worthy of it. And I think this can be true for anyone, but what makes it so much more difficult for some men is that our sense of worthiness is so tied up in the idea that we need to be strong, unwavering, steadfast, unemotional, that we think allowing ourselves to be vulnerable somehow makes us less worthy. And a fear of being unworthy is what makes it too scary to be vulnerable. So if we break that down and look at it a little bit closer, it's drilled into us from a young age that we need to be unemotional, we need to be strong and independent. And even if we've got a really great and forward thinking family who tell us that's not the case, then we go to school and we're told it is, or we go, we spend time with certain friends or certain family members who tell us it is important. Um, and these things are the conditions of our worthiness. And we can only feel vulnerable with others if we believe that we are worthy of love. But we worry that being vulnerable makes us more emotional and less strong. So then that would make us less worthy, which makes it more difficult to be vulnerable. It's like this annoying cycle. So the very thing that humans need to be able to do, which is allow themselves to be vulnerable with other humans, is the same thing preventing men from doing it. We're stuck in this impossible cycle where we want the confidence to be vulnerable. In order to have that, we need to believe we're worthy. In order to believe we're worthy, we need to be strong and unemotional. And if we're strong and unemotional, we think we can't be vulnerable. So where do we go from there? If we believe that we need to be these things, what is the fix for this? I think then when it comes to mental health, it's even harder because we feel like it makes us weaker. That whole cycle again is amplified. But mental health issues, I'd argue are as organic as physical health issues. I can see someone's linked to that talk by Brené Brown. It really is brilliant, and I really would recommend that one. So yeah, mental health issues, I'd argue are as organic as physical health issues. And I mean, does a broken leg make you weaker? I mean, like physically, yes, you would technically be weaker if you had a broken leg, but we wouldn't worry about anyone thinking we were weak because we were in a car crash or because we inherited a medical condition. But whether the causes are situational, environmental, genetic, or even drug related, we're still talking about brain chemistry. We're talking about neurotransmitters and hormones. So why don't men open up to their friends and their partners? I think all of the above, really. I think they feel they need to be the rocks, or at least to seem like them. And even if they think this shouldn't be the case and shouldn't need to be the case, they can feel trapped by the fact that the men around them might be keeping up appearances. So they do too. And why don't men go to therapy? I think men are in a bit of a bind because it's hard to open up to a female counselor because they think they need to be strong in front of women. It's hard to open up to a male counselor. I mean, that's even worse because they can't make themselves look weak in front of another man. This is a little bit tongue in cheek, but when I was training as a counselor and I had to have my own therapy, I kind of feel I nailed it by going for an old woman because you can tell grandma anything. Um, But being vulnerable with others, it can feel like a leap of faith. If we believe it will be good for us, we know we should do it. Um, we're worried, but then we're worried about how we feel. We might feel uncomfortable. We're worried about how we'll appear. We might appear weak. But the secret that doesn't seem to be shared enough, and it really shouldn't be a secret at all, is that it's not just the case that vulnerability isn't a weakness. Vulnerability is actually a strength, and it's powerful. And when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with others, what we learn very quickly is that it's not something that we do for others. It's not like, okay, you shared with me, so I'll share with you, and that's the only reason. Being vulnerable with others isn't for them, it's for us. And earlier, I was speaking about how it was unfair on my friends that they were vulnerable with me and I wasn't in return. And there is some truth to that. But I was looking at it the wrong way. They were looking at it the wrong way. And sometimes we can all look at it the wrong way. I mean, my friends hadn't been opening up to me for my sake, to give me these interesting bits of information and make me feel important. They were sharing with me because it helped them, it built them up, it helped them understand themselves better. And they were caring for themselves, loving themselves, and looking after their own well being, and thankfully allowing me to be a part of that, using our friendship as a safe and healthy space to do that. But if it took me 24 years to realize that I needed to be vulnerable with my friends, initially thinking it was like a gift I could give them, it took me seconds after that to realize that the real gift was to myself.